Cyberpunk in VR on the RTX 5090 and Pimax Crystal Light is incredible. With the latest high-end GPUs and high-quality VR headsets, VR is becoming what I dreamed of. There hasn't been much in terms of experiences like Half-Life Alyx in terms of absolute outstanding games until now. The Lucros Real VR mod is literally taking the community by storm at the moment, and we all know what an amazing headset the Pimax Crystal Light is. Yes, that's right, a true VR dedicated headset with direct DisplayPort to the GPU. And this is with ray tracing, path tracing enabled, with DLSS4 running in 120Hz mode and hitting that 120 FPS limit in the headset. But don't take my word for it, check it out yourself right after this. So how the game plays is with a traditional controller. This is the latest Rail mod, which you can download from Lucros's Patreon. The mod can also be used in a number of other VR titles. It's as simple as extracting the files to the root folder of the game, so here's a quick tutorial on how to get it up and running. Once you have reached Real VR Mods on Patreon by Lucros, you will need to sign up for a membership. You can sign up for 1 month to obtain the modification. If you want to carry on supporting Luke, you can sign up further. Then once you are signed up, you then need to navigate to the Home tab. Once you are on the Home tab, scroll down and you will see on the pinned comments the most recent version of the Real VR mod will be available. Now, the Real VR mod covers a number of games, not just Cyberpunk. And if you then scroll down, you will then see the modification available to download just here. To download the file, we simply click on the file and you will see that the download has started. It will then be available in our downloads folder. Before we apply the modification, we need to launch the game and we need to go into graphical settings. We then need to set the preset to custom. We need to select the DLSS to super resolution if we are using the transformer model with a 50 series GPU or a 40 series GPU. We then need to select transformer model and quality. Scrolling further down, if you have a 50 series card such as a 5080 or a 5090, you can select ray tracing reflections, sun shadows and local shadows. This may or may not work on a 40 series GPU. If you want to choose path tracing over these options, you can choose a path tracing mode. Scrolling further down, you will need to select the quality settings based upon your system specifications. However, for the Pimax Crystal, I've found that medium settings and high on distant shadows resolution works well. So simply select medium resolution, and of course you can custom this to your liking. The easiest way to set the DLSS4 transformer model preset is to use the NVIDIA app. Select graphics, then go into the Cyberpunk game, then scroll down until you reach this section here on driver settings. You will then select under the DLSS override section, use different settings for each DLSS technology. You would then select frame generation to the latest, and you would then use the latest preset. In this instance it's preset K. For the DLSS4, in other words the 4-time frame generation, we would select DLSS override, frame generation, and then we would simply select the 4x frame generation. 3 works equally well, or use the 3D application settings if you want to stay with the 2. The zipped file that we downloaded from the Alyx Patreon page then needs to be extracted into a new folder. We need to create a new folder on our desktop. We need to call it whatever we wish. In this instance I've called it Real Mod Alyx. We then need to extract the contents of the zipped folder into the new folder that we then created. Then once we're in the Cyberpunk game structure, we then need to navigate to bin, x64. This is now the root folder of the game. We then need to open up the Real Mod Alyx folder we just created. We then need to highlight all of the files, select cut, close that folder. We then simply paste these into the game structure. Now I'm not going to do this again, I've already run it and the game is already embedded. However, once we have done that, we then need to simply select the real config file, and then we need to run that batch file. It will then automatically install the relevant files as required, and then the VR element will then run. On the Pimax side of things, we then need to open up the Pimax Play application. We then need to click on the Pimax Crystal Light device settings. Once we're in the device settings, we then set the refresh rate to 120 Hz. We then, under games, select the render quality to medium. You can have fixed foveated rendering active or inactive depending. You would need to obviously check your preference on this once within the game. And in general, the OpenXR runtime needs to be disabled and Steam VR needs to be the active runtime. You can then put your Pimax Crystal on and you can then launch the game through the launcher as normal. At this stage you won't see Cyberpunk launch within the headset, you'll see the Steam environment. If you take your headset off and look at the main monitor, you will see the Cyberpunk in a smaller window. All you need to then do is press on the down arrow. That will then open up a real VR menu, as you can see here. And what we were then looking to do is we were then looking to set the runtime. The VR renderer runtime that we're interested in is the OpenVR Legacy mode. It will come up with a warning initially saying that this is an outdated renderer mode. However, you just need to simply bypass that and select don't show it again. You can see here that we have VR running, but on your first run you will have an option to start VR. Once you start VR, you can then put the headset back on, press the down arrow, this menu will then disappear. This video is sponsored by Pimax, but the Pimax Crystal Light used in this video wasn't supplied to me by Pimax. The headset was purchased by me and is my own. But the fantastic team at Pimax are offering all subscribers an exclusive discount on the amazing Pimax Crystal Light by using the code NLSIMGaming and by using the link in the video description below. So here, as you can see, the first part of the game I'm going to walk around and talk and describe what I'm seeing. This is absolutely phenomenal, and the first time I tried this game in VR I was absolutely blown away, and I still am even now. So this is using the DLSS4 transformer model on the RTX 5090, and this is a new technology, and this is using the latest model variant, and I'm seeing no visual artifacting. I'm looking around. The depth of field is absolutely immense. I've played a lot of VR games. Half-Life Alyx, I thought, couldn't be beaten. And that probably is still the case in many respects, but this is a AAA title in the same respect that Half-Life Alyx is a AAA title, but we're just not getting the AAA titles at the moment on VR, which is disappointing but understandable in the current economic climate. A lot of developers just aren't unfortunately willing to take that risk. So we have now tremendous people out there like Blue Cross who have made this possible. Now I'm going to also be showing a couple more videos after this coming up where we're going to be using this Blue Cross modification to look at some other games, and they are equally amazing. I'm not going to give you any spoilers at this stage, but what I've seen over the past week or so in terms of what this modification can do is absolutely incredible. Now I'm also reserving 10% of the GPU for screen recording because I'm using OBS to record. So talking about the settings just briefly, the settings that we're using here on the Pimax are medium, 0.75 render resolution with fixed foveated rendering, and you're probably wondering, okay, why are you using fixed foveated rendering? It actually looks really good using fixed foveated rendering. You probably, hopefully, can see the outer peripheral where it should pixelate slightly, but I'm not actually really seeing a great deal of that in the headset. You have to be fairly quick to see that. It's running at 120 FPS at 120 Hz, so it cannot get any faster. And in terms of the actual in-game settings, I've got it set to medium and high in some areas. You can obviously tweak it to your heart's content. You know, when you're looking at 4090s, 5090s, and the DLSS4 transformer model, it's going well beyond the capabilities of a refresh rate of any VR headset out there at the moment. So it's an incredible experience, and one that just simply has to be tried and simply cannot be beaten, really. Now, if I just run around, as mentioned, a lot of people say, okay, fake frames and etc, etc. You know, if this is fake frames, then I've absolutely no complaints whatsoever. I'm seeing no artifacting, I'm seeing no issues, and this is the future of gaming, whereas this is the direction we're going in. This is where a lot of developers are gearing towards utilising this technology, because we really have reached the limits of GPUs and where we are at, and if this is utilising that latest technology, then I'm fully embracing that, because this is absolutely fantastic. So the next thing I'm going to show you actually in a vehicle. We're going to have a drive round, but again, this is something that you have to absolutely try. I cannot emphasize enough how amazing this game is. It's a fantastic game anyway, and I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed playing the game previously, but you know, if you want to utilize your existing game library and want to try something completely different, I've been absolutely immersed in this for a matter of days, and I'm absolutely loving the experience. I've completely re-energized my love for the game, and I'm just eager just to play it through in this mode, because it just seems like a completely different experience. There's nothing better than walking around Night City and seeing things and just stopping and looking at fine details, and it really gives me a lot of appreciation for what the developers have done within this game. Interacting with characters, it makes me want to mod the game now and want to go that step further, and we've got the capacity to mod the game. You know, there's a lot of performance left on the table due to these technologies such as DLSS4, transformer, etc, and it gives us that capability, whereas normally with VR we're hunting for that every frame count. With this, there's oodles of performance available to play with, and some of the comments I've seen on this game have been, oh, well, it looks muddy, it looks... There's no such thing going on where I'm looking around now. Hopefully that's represented in terms of what you're seeing on the screen as well. There's no muddiness, everything is absolutely crystal clear, everything is fantastic. There was muddiness on the Quest 3, I'll admit, because you've got the compression and decompression. we've got direct display port on the Pimax Crystal, and it's not something that we need to have up for negotiation. It just works. It's as simple as that. So now, as said, I'm going to have a jump into a scene where I'm going to drive around and show you how things are in a different area of the game. But this is Night City on a night, and this is exactly the most amazing experience that you could essentially wish for. So we're now in one of the driving sections of the game, and the great thing about this game, as already mentioned, is if you've played the game through before, you can load one of your previous saves and you can just essentially just go out for a drive in open road. That's an incredible experience in itself, just jumping into one of the vehicles in the game and just driving around and just having fun, really, which is essentially what VR should be. And I'm just actually going to turn around. I'm tempted to follow the mission a bit here, but I'm just going to drive back and head towards the city and just show you the sheer sense of scale and the fluidity as to how this works, really. So, as mentioned, the game is on DLSS4 transformer model. One of the questions that people have asked is, there must be some artifacting with DLSS4, there must be some issues with it, fake frames, etc, etc. And I haven't seen that, truly. It's absolutely amazing. Cyberpunk is actually quite a glitchy game, really. From previous experience, although I haven't played it in some time until using this modification, I've not really seen it now. Don't get me wrong, I've seen the odd vehicle that's not tracking correctly on the road, or the odd weird Cyberpunk character walking where they shouldn't be, you know, but that's just part and parcel of the game. It's quite an incredibly complex game engine, but what CD Projekt Red have done with this game to develop this game is nothing short of spectacular. Now, as you can see, we're going to a densely populated area, or a densely cinematic area of the game, and there's no slowdown. Everything is fluid, everything is highly detailed, as you can see here, and it looks absolutely spectacular. It really, really does. So this is, as it is, a driving section. Of course, we've got complete free roam on the map of Cyberpunk. We can go anywhere where we want. If we want to go and buy a burger, we can stop and buy a burger. You know, if we want to go and explore a Badlands area like here, we can get off, we can have some combat. You know, we can do whatever we want, and it's that freedom, that sense of freedom is absolutely astonishing within this game. Which is one thing that kept me glued to the game to see it through its completion. Don't unfortunately have much time nowadays to do that with many games, but this is one of those very rare games where I wanted to play it through. I played a lot of the various different side missions in the game, and it is an astonishing game. And to be able to come back to this and just play it in VR is just something I could never imagine. So again, what Luke Ross has done with his modifications is nothing short of spectacular. Now, just getting off the bike just here, just because this is absolutely stunning. As you can see, the sense of scale, the scenery around us is just simply unbelievable. I'm not too sure, I think you can even jump into the water just here as well. So you can do whatever you want. You can enjoy the complete freedom. I'm probably not going to be able to get out of here now, am I? But you can enjoy the absolute sense of freedom and scale like no other game. What's under the water? I've never really actually looked. And this even feels like being underwater, you know, it's absolutely incredible. It really is. All I can say is it's unreal. It's the real mod, but it is unreal. You've got to experience this, and it just turns any UE or Unreal Engine game you can think of into this amazing experience. And just look around you, just look at this environment. You cannot imagine how good this looks within this headset. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and links here are some other VR videos that you may find of interest. Until next time, take care, but for now I'm off back into Night City for some more of this unbelievable experience.